In the vast, sun-scorched canyons of the Arizona Territory, where the red earth whispered ancient secrets and the wind carried echoes of forgotten battles, two Apache sisters, Nita and Lila, paused at the edge of a dry arroyo. They were young, barely out of their teens, with raven hair braided tightly and eyes sharp as eagle feathers. The year was 1872, a time when the white man's encroachment had turned their world into a battlefield of broken treaties and spilled blood. But on this fateful afternoon, as they gathered roots for their clan's evening meal, a faint groan shattered the silence. There, crumpled against a jagged rock, lay a stranger, a pale-skinned man in tattered clothes, his face etched with pain and fever. His horse was nowhere in sight, and a deep gash across his leg oozed blood onto the parched ground. Nita froze, her hand instinctively reaching for the knife at her belt. "Lila," she whispered urgently, "he is one of them, the White Eyes. We must leave him. The elders say they bring only death." But Lila, the bolder of the two, stepped closer, her heart pounding with a mix of fear and curiosity. She had heard the stories from their grandmother, tales of soldiers who stole land and lives, of promises as fleeting as morning mist. Yet, something in the man's helpless gaze stirred her. He was young, perhaps no older than they were, with sweat-matted blonde hair and eyes the color of the sky after rain. He murmured weakly in a language they didn't understand, but his plea was universal: help. The sisters exchanged glances, the weight of their people's history pressing down like the midday sun. They had never touched a white man before, never even seen one up close without the barrier of rifles or reservations. To aid him could invite betrayal, or worse, the wrath of their tribe. But as Lila knelt beside him, gently pressing a cloth to his wound, an unexpected warmth flooded her. "We are Apache," she said softly to Nita, "warriors of the earth. But warriors also heal." Reluctantly, Nita joined her, tearing strips from her own shawl to bind the injury. The man winced but managed a faint smile, his hand trembling as it brushed Lila's in gratitude. In that moment, a spark ignited, a fragile bridge across a chasm of distrust. As the sun dipped lower, painting the canyon walls in hues of crimson and gold, the sisters made a bold decision. They couldn't leave him to the coyotes or the relentless heat. With improvised strength, they fashioned a travois from branches and their gathering baskets, dragging him back to their hidden camp nestled in the shadow of sacred mountains. The journey was arduous, every bump elicited a gasp from the stranger, and Nita's doubts grew with each step. "What if he is a scout?" she hissed. "What if he leads others here?" Lila shook her head, her resolve hardening. "Then we face it together. But look at him, he is alone, like a lost fawn." Upon arriving at the camp, their arrival caused a stir. The elders gathered, murmurs rippling through the teepees like wind through mesquite. Chief Taza, their uncle, approached with stern eyes, his weathered face a map of survival. "Why have you brought this enemy into our midst?" he demanded. The sisters stood tall, Lila speaking first. "He is no enemy yet, uncle. He is hurt, and we could not let him die. Our ways teach us to honor life, even in strangers." The chief's gaze softened slightly, remembering the old teachings of harmony with all creation. Reluctantly, he allowed the man to stay, under watchful guard, while the medicine woman tended his wounds with poultices of yucca and sage. The stranger, whose name they learned was Elias Reed, a young reporter from back east, sent to chronicle the wild frontier, began to recover. At first, communication was halting, a patchwork of gestures and broken words. But as days turned to weeks, Elias shared stories of his world, towering cities of stone, iron horses that raced across plains, and a nation torn by its own wars. In return, Nita and Lila taught him Apache ways, the rhythm of the drum, the language of the stars, the sacred bond with the land. An unexpected turn came one night around the fire. Elias revealed a hidden pouch from his vest, containing not weapons, but sketches and notes. "I came to write about savages," he admitted, shame coloring his voice, "but I found people. Families. Like mine." The sisters were stunned, they had assumed all whites saw them as less than human. This realization cracked open their guarded hearts, revealing that prejudice flowed both ways. Elias's presence became a quiet revolution in the camp. Children peeked at him curiously, elders shared wary conversations, and the sisters found themselves defending him against skeptics. One evening, as thunder rumbled in the distance, a profound moment unfolded. A raiding party of rival settlers had been spotted nearby, rumors of an impending attack swirling like dust devils. Elias, now stronger, overheard the plans. In a twist that no one anticipated, he volunteered to ride out alone, to parley with his own kind, using his reporter's credentials to broker peace. "You've shown me kindness when I deserved none," he told the sisters. "Let me repay it." Nita and Lila protested, it was too dangerous. But Elias insisted, his eyes fierce with newfound purpose. As he mounted a borrowed pony and rode into the night, the camp held its breath. Hours stretched into eternity, fear gnawing at the sisters. Had they been fools to trust? The climax built as dawn broke, revealing not an army, but Elias returning with a small delegation of settlers, farmers, not soldiers. Through halting negotiations, aided by Elias's translations, a tentative truce was forged. The settlers agreed to detour their wagons, respecting the Apache boundaries, in exchange for safe passage and shared water rights. But the true transformation came in a simple act. One settler, a grizzled man with calloused hands, extended a basket of fresh bread and tools. "We didn't know," he said gruffly. "Thought you all were ghosts in the hills." Lila accepted it, her touch on the white man's hand, a first for her people in generations, sealing a bond of humanity over hatred. Tears welled in Nita's eyes as she realized, compassion had turned enemies into allies, selflessness bridging worlds thought irreconcilable. The truce held, fragile as a spider's web, but it grew stronger with each passing day. Elias stayed longer than planned, not as a prisoner, but as a guest, documenting not conquests, but connections. He wrote letters back east, his articles shifting from sensational tales to heartfelt pleas for understanding. "The Apache are not the monsters of our myths," he penned, "but guardians of a land we invade without thought." Nita and Lila, once wary, found joy in these exchanges. Lila taught him to track deer silently, while Nita shared songs of the ancestors, their voices harmonizing under starlit skies. An unexpected realization dawned on Elias during a quiet moment by the stream. Watching the sisters laugh as they splashed water, he saw the universality of human spirit, dreams, fears, love, that transcended skin color or culture. "I came seeking stories of adventure," he confessed to them one dusk, "but found the greatest adventure in kindness." The sisters nodded, their own views transformed. They had touched a white man, not in violence, but in healing, discovering that selflessness could rewrite destinies. As Elias prepared to leave, the emotional climax peaked in a farewell ceremony. The camp gathered, drums beating a rhythm of unity. Chief Taza presented Elias with a beaded amulet, symbolizing protection. "You entered as stranger," he intoned, "leave as brother." Elias, voice breaking, hugged the sisters tightly. "You saved more than my life," he whispered. "You saved my soul." In that embrace, generations of division dissolved in an act of profound generosity, the sisters' initial compassion rippling outward, inspiring change far beyond their canyon. Years later, Elias's writings sparked movements in the East, advocating for native rights and fair treaties. The sisters' story became legend, whispered in teepees and printed in newspapers. Nita married a fellow Apache, raising children who knew peace with neighbors. Lila became a storyteller, traveling to share tales of that fateful day. "We never touched a white man before," she would say to wide-eyed listeners, "but when we did, it was with open hands, not closed fists." The impact was transformative, small acts of humanity fostering larger waves of empathy across a divided nation. In the USA, where frontiers of misunderstanding still lingered, their example resonated, reminding people that kindness bridges even the widest gulfs. The story spread, inspiring schoolteachers to weave it into lessons, activists to invoke it in speeches, and everyday folk to extend hands to strangers. One unexpected turn came when Elias returned decades later, now an old man with a family of his own. He found the sisters, aged but vibrant, in a thriving community where Apache and settlers coexisted. They shared a meal, laughing over old memories, realizing their single act had planted seeds of lasting hope. As Elias departed once more, he left behind a book, a chronicle dedicated to them, The Touch of Humanity. The conclusion was heartwarming. In a world often torn by differences, selflessness proves the ultimate power, turning strangers into kin and despair into dawn. The legacy endured, echoing through time. In modern America, where echoes of historical wounds persist, the sisters' tale inspires countless acts of compassion, from community outreaches to cross-cultural dialogues. It teaches that one generous moment can ignite profound change, fostering a more united humanity. Readers across the globe, especially in the USA, find hope in its message. No divide is insurmountable when met with open hearts. The story closes on an uplifting note, proof that kindness, like the enduring canyons, shapes the world for generations, leaving us all inspired to reach out, touch, and transform.